The clock ticked softly in the background, its rhythmic sound almost hypnotic as I sat in the dimly lit living room of my grandmother's house. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of memories that lingered in every corner of the room. Shadows danced along the walls, cast by the flickering flame of a lone candle on the coffee table. I hugged my knees to my chest, staring into the darkness beyond the window, where the night stretched endlessly, punctuated only by the distant hum of crickets. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence, soft and melodic, yet eerily familiar. "Jenna," it called, drifting through the corridor like a wisp of smoke. My heart raced, and a chill ran down my spine. I knew that voice, my grandmother's. It had been over a year since she passed, yet the sound was so vivid, so alive, that it felt as though she were just beyond the threshold, waiting to embrace me. "Is that you, Grandma?" I whispered, hardly daring to breathe. The house was filled with memories of her warmth, her laughter, and her wise words. But now, that same voice sent shivers down my spine, twisting my emotions into a knot of confusion and fear. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought. It must be my imagination, I told myself, a trick of the mind playing on my grief. I closed my eyes, recalling her comforting smile and the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of family stories. "You're just tired, Jenna," I muttered under my breath, trying to convince myself. But the voice called again, more insistent this time. "Jenna, come here." The tone was softer, yet it carried an urgency that made my heart pound in my chest. With a deep breath, I pushed myself off the couch, my feet hesitant against the cold wooden floor. Anxiety coursed through my veins as I stepped into the corridor, the shadows shifting and swirling around me. I could feel the pulse of the house, as if it were alive and breathing, and I suddenly wished I had stayed in the safety of my living room. "It's just a memory," I told myself, yet my feet moved forward, drawn by an invisible thread pulling me deeper into the darkness. "Grandma," I called out hesitantly, my voice barely above a whisper. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls closing in around me. My heart raced, and I paused, the weight of the silence pressing down on me. Was this really happening, or was I losing my mind? "Jenna," the voice echoed again, wrapping around me like a shroud. It was as if she were right there, just out of sight, beckoning me to follow. I took a shaky breath, the air thick with tension, and began to walk again, each step echoing my growing unease. The familiar scent of lavender, her favorite, wafted through the air, mingling with the musty smell of old wood. As I approached her room, a sense of foreboding washed over me. Memories of afternoons spent listening to her stories flooded my mind, but now, those memories felt tainted with an inexplicable dread. I reached for the doorknob, my hand trembling as I felt the cool metal beneath my palm. The voice called out once more, a plea that both excited and terrified me. "Jenna." I hesitated, feeling the weight of the past pressing against my chest. Was I ready to confront whatever lay behind that door? The air grew colder, and I could almost hear the whispers of the house urging me to turn back. But something deep inside urged me forward, a pull I couldn't resist. "Grandma, I'm coming," I finally called out, my voice clearer now, filled with determination. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever awaited me on the other side. The shadows seemed to shift, swirling with anticipation as I pushed the door open, my heart pounding like a drum in the silence. The threshold was crossed, and in that moment, the line between the past and present blurred, as if I were stepping into a different world, one filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. As I stood before my grandmother's door, an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread washed over me. The corridor, once familiar, now felt like a dark chasm leading to the unknown. The soft whispers of my grandmother's voice seemed to echo in my mind, urging me to step forward. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. The old wooden door felt heavy beneath my trembling hand, as if it carried the weight of all the secrets it had guarded for so long. "Jenna," the voice called again, softer now yet laced with an urgency that sent chills down my spine. I closed my eyes for a moment, imagining her warm smile, her hands gently brushing my hair back from my face. But the memory was like a ghost itself, fleeting and insubstantial, replaced by the icy grip of fear. What could be waiting for me inside? Taking a deep breath, I gripped the doorknob tightly, my knuckles turning white as I prepared to confront the past. The silence that enveloped me felt suffocating, a stark contrast to the soft calls that had beckoned me moments before. I could feel the air thickening, charged with something unnameable, something that made my skin prickle. With a swift motion, I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. The hinges creaked like a warning, and I stepped inside, my heart racing. The room was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the walls as the moonlight spilled through the window. It was as if time had stood still. The familiar scent of my grandmother's perfume, lavender and something sweet, wrapped around me, stirring memories of her gentle presence. I felt a pang of longing in my chest, mingled with an inexplicable sense of dread. There, on the bed, lay an ornate box, covered in intricate embroidery that seemed to shimmer in the low light. It was a treasure chest of sorts, the kind my grandmother might have used to store her most precious belongings. I felt an undeniable pull towards it, an instinctive urge that told me this box held answers. Answers to questions I hadn't even voiced yet. "Open it, Jenna," the voice whispered, now echoing in my mind rather than from the shadows. "You must know the truth." I approached the bed, my fingers trembling as I reached for the box. It felt warm to the touch, as if it had been waiting for me, longing to be opened. The intricate pattern seemed to swirl under my fingertips, almost alive. I glanced back at the door, half expecting to see something lurking in the darkness, but it remained empty, the silence pressing against me like a thick fog. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding louder with each passing moment. "What is this?" I whispered to myself, more a plea than a question. But the room remained silent, offering no comfort. With a determined resolve, I lifted the lid of the box. Inside, I found a collection of letters, photographs, and an old diary. The pages were yellowed with age, fragile and brittle, as if they had been untouched for decades. My fingers brushed over the items, each one a fragment of my family's history, each one carrying the weight of unsaid words and hidden truths. "What are you hiding from me, Grandma?" I murmured, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. The sight of the diary made my heart ache. It was her voice, her thoughts captured in ink, and yet I could sense the shadows lurking beyond the words. As I carefully lifted the diary from the box, a sudden rush of cold air swept through the room, extinguishing the warmth that had enveloped me. The shadows seemed to deepen, swirling ominously in the corners. "Jenna," the voice called again, this time tinged with something darker, an edge of desperation that made my skin crawl. I clutched the diary to my chest, the weight of it grounding me amidst the unsettling atmosphere. "I'm here, Grandma," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm here." But the room remained silent, the air thick with anticipation, as if it awaited my next move. With trembling hands, I opened the diary, ready to uncover the secrets that had been hidden for too long. As I opened the ornate box, the air around me seemed to thicken, pressing against my skin as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath. Inside, I found letters tied with fraying ribbons, photographs faded with time, and an old diary that belonged to my grandmother. Each item felt like a thread pulling me deeper into the fabric of my family's history, a history I had been blissfully unaware of until now. I carefully lifted the diary, its leather cover cracked and worn. The pages, yellowed and brittle, whispered secrets of a time long past. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart racing in anticipation as I opened to the first entry. The familiar, looping script danced across the page, and I could almost hear my grandmother's voice in my mind as I read. August 12th, 1942. Today, I felt the weight of our family's history pressing down on me. The women in our lineage have always been strong, but strength comes at a price. I fear the whispers have started again, calling to me in the night. I must find a way to protect them. I paused, chills running down my spine. Whispers? Was this what I had heard just moments ago? I turned the page, eager to escape the creeping dread that was wrapping around my heart. September 3rd, 1942. I discovered an old ritual in the attic. It speaks of a curse that has plagued our family for generations. Betrayal, sorrow, and dark forces are intertwined with our bloodline. I must prepare to confront this darkness before it claims another. My breath hitched as I read those words. A curse? My mind raced back to the voice that had called me, the one that had pulled me into the darkness of the corridor. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool night air. The shadows in the room seemed to grow darker, as if they were feeding off my mounting fear. October 15th, 1942. I tried to perform the ritual tonight, but the entity laughed at me, taunting my efforts. It feeds off our pain and fear. I fear that I cannot protect them. I must find a way to break this cycle. I couldn't stop the tears from streaming down my face. The weight of my grandmother's struggle weighed heavily on my heart. She had fought against something so sinister, and now it felt as if that same darkness was stalking me. Was I destined to face the same fate? November 1st, 1942. I have made a terrible choice. I thought I could protect them by isolating myself, but the whispers grew louder. I can feel the curse tightening its grip. Jenna, my beloved granddaughter, I worry for you. You are the last of our line, and the curse seeks to claim you. I gasped, the name Jenna echoing in my mind as if it were a spell. The pages blurred as my tears dripped onto them. How had she known? Did she sense that this would all come to me? December 5th, 1942. I am losing my fight. The shadows are all around me. I hear their laughter, and it chills me to my core. I must find a way to free you, my dear Jenna. You must know the truth of our family's past. Do not let fear bind you. You must confront the darkness. The last words trailed off into a shaky scrawl, leaving me breathless. My grandmother had known, had tried to warn me. I could feel the weight of her spirit in the room, urging me to understand, to act. But what could I do? I was just a girl who had stumbled upon a dark legacy. Suddenly, I heard it again, the voice, low and haunting, echoing through the corridors of my mind. Jenna, it called my name with a mix of love and despair. I clutched the diary to my chest, feeling as though I were holding onto the very essence of my grandmother. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered into the emptiness, my voice trembling. Why couldn't you save us? The shadows danced around me, closing in as if they were alive, and I realized then that I was not alone. The oppressive darkness was not just a figment of my imagination. It was real, and it had been waiting for me. I felt that I was being watched, as if the curse had finally turned its gaze upon me. I had to know more. I had to dig deeper into the secrets my grandmother had left behind. With trembling hands, I delved back into the diary, desperate to unearth whatever knowledge I could to protect myself and honor her struggle. The shadows seemed to whisper in response, taunting me, beckoning me to step deeper into the abyss of my family's past. The air felt thick around me as I stood there, clutching the diary and absorbing the weight of its revelations. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the house like a cacophony of lost souls. It was as if the very walls were alive, urging me to turn back, to forget the darkness that loomed just beyond the edge of my consciousness. But I couldn't turn back. Not now. I had to face what lay ahead. Suddenly, I felt a chill sweep through the room, causing me to shiver involuntarily. The shadows in the corners twisted and morphed, taking on grotesque shapes that seemed to leer at me with malice. I could almost hear them taunting, their whispers slithering into my mind. "You shouldn't have come here, Jenna," they hissed. "You're not ready for the truth." "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling as I took a step back. "What do you want from me?" The shadows shifted, and from them emerged a figure, its features obscured by darkness. It was a silhouette of something monstrous, and I could feel its eyes boring into me, piercing through the veil of fear that enveloped my heart. "I am what your family has tried to bury." It spoke, its voice a low growl that rumbled through the air. "I am the consequence of their choices, the embodiment of their sins." I could hardly breathe, yet I felt a surge of anger rising within me. "You're nothing but a coward, hiding in the dark," I spat, my voice gaining strength. "You think you can scare me into submission?" The entity laughed, a sound that sent icy tendrils down my spine. "Such bravado, Jenna, but you don't understand. Your grandmother and her mother before her tried to escape me, to free themselves from the curse. But I am bound to this family, and you, dear child, are next in line." "Next in line?" I echoed, the realization hitting me like a sledgehammer. "You mean to say this curse is real? All those stories, they were true and ever-present," it said, stepping closer, the shadows swirling around it like a dark cloak. "Your grandmother's spirit is trapped, just as yours will soon be. She tried to protect you, but the weight of the past is too great. You cannot outrun your lineage, Jenna." I felt my heart race as the entity's words sank in. The diary had hinted at a darkness that had plagued the women of my family for generations, but I never imagined I would be the one to face it. "What do you want from me?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "I want what I have always wanted," it replied, its voice dripping with a sinister glee. "I want to claim you as my own, to feed off your fear and despair. You are the last piece of the puzzle, the final sacrifice that will bind your family to me forever." "No," I gasped, shaking my head as if I could physically dispel the horror. "I won't let you take me. I refuse to be a part of this." The entity's laughter echoed in the dimly lit room, reverberating off the walls as it reveled in my fear. "You may refuse, but the choice is not yours to make. The darkness will always find a way. You see, Jenna, fear is a powerful thing. It can twist your mind, bend your will. It will consume you until you are nothing but a shadow of your former self." I felt a surge of panic as the shadows closed in, their cold tendrils wrapping around my ankles, pulling me down. "Stop it," I shouted, struggling against their grip. "You can't have me." "Struggle all you like," the entity said, its form flickering with malevolent energy. "The more you resist, the stronger I become. Your grandmother's attempts to break the curse have only made it more potent. You are the final link, Jenna. Embrace your fate." The room felt as if it was closing in on me, the shadows blending into a dark vortex of despair. As I fought to maintain my sense of self, I felt the diary slip from my grasp and fall to the floor, its pages fluttering open like trapped birds desperate for freedom. The words began to blur, the ink running like blood as the entity's power surged around me. "Your family's history is not just a tale, Jenna. It is your destiny," it hissed, the shadows swirling in a chaotic dance. "And soon, you will learn that the past cannot be buried. It will always rise again." In that moment, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. I couldn't allow this entity to claim me, to continue the cycle of torment that had plagued my family for generations. I had to find a way to confront this darkness and break free from its grasp. The question was how? I stood in the dimly lit room, the weight of the diary in my hands heavy with the burden of my family's past. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and I could feel the air growing thicker, charged with an energy I couldn't quite grasp. I had learned enough of my grandmother's struggles to know that I was the last hope for my family, but the fear gnawed at me like a hungry beast. As I read through the pages filled with my grandmother's delicate handwriting, a sense of purpose washed over me. I must perform the ritual, I whispered to myself, the words tasting foreign and yet oddly familiar. My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead, but I couldn't let my grandmother's spirit remain trapped any longer. With a deep breath, I gathered the items I would need: a silver locket that once belonged to her, a bowl of salt, and a sprig of rosemary, the symbols of protection and remembrance. "Okay, Jenna, just focus," I muttered under my breath, trying to steady the tremor in my hands. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch and twitch, responding to the energy I was summoning. "I can do this. I have to do this." As I laid out the items in a circle on the floor, I could feel the entity lurking, its presence growing stronger, feeding off my fear. The air became electric, and I could hear its voice, low and mocking, slithering through my thoughts. "You really think you can break the curse? You're just a scared little girl playing with fire." I clenched my fists, refusing to let its taunts penetrate my resolve. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. "I'm doing this for my grandmother. I will free her." The shadows twisted, and I could almost see the entity materializing, a dark figure with malevolent eyes that glinted with wicked amusement. "Oh, how adorable. But you're just prolonging the inevitable. You can't escape your fate, Jenna. The curse is a part of you now." Ignoring its words, I took a deep breath and began the incantation, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my insides. "In the name of my ancestors, I call upon the spirits of my lineage. I seek to break the chains that bind us, to release my grandmother from her torment." The room trembled, the shadows writhing violently as if protesting my declaration. The entity shrieked, its voice rising in a cacophony of rage. "You think you could defy me? You are nothing without your fear. Embrace it." But I pressed on, the rhythm of my words becoming a mantra, a lifeline to my grandmother's spirit. "I am not afraid. I am the light that will guide you home." The air thickened, vibrating with the force of my declaration. Suddenly, the entity lunged at me, a swirling mass of darkness that threatened to consume me whole. I stumbled back, the shadows coiling around my legs, pulling me down into a void of despair. "No," I cried out, my voice lost in the chaos. "I won't let you take me." The world around me spun violently, and I felt a sharp tug at my heart, as if something deep within me was being ripped away. "You cannot resist," it roared, the sound echoing in my mind. "You are mine." With every ounce of strength I had left, I fought against the pull of the void, clinging to the memories of my grandmother, the warmth of her embrace, her laughter echoing through my childhood. "I am my own," I screamed, summoning the love that had always grounded me. The shadows hesitated, flickering as if unsure of their hold on me. "You're stronger than I thought," the entity hissed, its voice laced with venom. "But it won't be enough." With a final surge of determination, I reached for the silver locket, holding it close to my heart. "This is for you, grandmother," I yelled, pouring all my love and pain into the words of the ritual. The locket began to glow, illuminating the darkness around me, forcing the shadows to retreat. The entity shrieked in fury, its form disintegrating as the light surged, pushing against the oppressive darkness. "No, you cannot do this." But I was resolute, the weight of my family's legacy fueling my strength. "I will break this curse," I declared, the light expanding until it enveloped me completely, pushing back against the darkness, illuminating the path to my grandmother's freedom. In that moment, I felt the connection to my ancestors, the generations of women who had suffered but persevered. I was not just Jenna, I was a part of something greater, a lineage of strength and resilience. And no matter the cost, I would reclaim our legacy. The void enveloped me, an endless expanse of darkness where time seemed to stand still. I felt a chill run through my bones, and then, within the shadows, a soft light began to flicker. I squinted, trying to focus on the figure that emerged. It was her, my grandmother, her ethereal form glowing with an otherworldly radiance that both comforted and terrified me. "Jenna," she called, her voice echoing in the emptiness. "You've come." "Grandma," I gasped, my heart racing. "I don't know what's happening. The entity, it's trying to consume me." She looked pained, her translucent face a mask of sorrow. "Yes, my dear, it seeks to claim you as it claimed the others. But there is a way to break the curse that has haunted our family for generations." "What do I have to do?" I asked, desperate for answers, my voice trembling. "The curse can only be broken if you willingly sacrifice something precious to you," she said, her tone grave. "You must face the truth of your lineage and make a choice." My mind raced. What could I possibly sacrifice? I can't lose anything. I've already lost you. I can't lose more. Her expression softened. "I know, my sweet Jenna, but the curse is powerful, and it feeds on our fears. It wants you to hold on to the very things that bind you to this darkness. Only by letting go can you set us free." The weight of her words pressed down on me, suffocating. I thought of my dreams, my aspirations, the life I had built, all tinged with the fear of this haunting legacy. What if I can't do it? What if I lose everything? "You won't lose everything," she reassured me, stepping closer. "You will gain strength, understanding. You will break the cycle of pain that has trapped our women for too long. But you must decide, Jenna. The entity is growing stronger, and time is running out." Panic surged through me as I felt the shadows shift around us, whispering taunts of despair. "What about you? Will you be free?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. "Yes, but only if you choose wisely. I am bound to this fate as long as the curse exists. You have the power to change that." The darkness deepened, and I could feel the entity lurking just beyond the reach of my grandmother's light. It was watching, waiting for my hesitation. "I need more time," I cried, feeling the weight of the decision crush me. "Time is a luxury we do not have," my grandmother said firmly. "You must decide now, Jenna. What do you hold dear enough to sacrifice?" I closed my eyes, my heart pounding in my chest. Images flooded my mind. My childhood, the laughter of family gatherings, my dreams of a bright future, and the shadow that loomed over it all. The fear of becoming a prisoner of this curse was overwhelming. I could feel the entity's presence growing more tangible, wrapping around me like a noose. "Your fear is your greatest enemy," my grandmother said gently. "Face it, what is worth sacrificing to save your future and mine?" Taking a deep breath, I opened my eyes, staring into her compassionate gaze. "I can't sacrifice my future. It's everything I've worked for," I said, my voice trembling. "But what if that future is never truly yours?" she pressed. "What if you were destined to repeat the same pain? You are at a crossroads, Jenna. Choose the pain of sacrifice or the pain of loss." As the shadows swirled violently around us, I felt a clear understanding wash over me. The entity wanted to consume me, to turn my fears into chains. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I had to accept the past, to honor my family's struggles while breaking free from their shadows. I choose to sacrifice my fear, I declared, my voice steadying as I faced the darkness. I refused to let it control me any longer. The darkness around us convulsed, and I could feel the entity's rage mounting. But my grandmother smiled, a radiant warmth enveloping me. Then let it be so, Jenna. You have made the right choice. With that, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, the shadows retreating as my fear transformed into strength. The void began to dissolve, and I clung to my grandmother's spirit, feeling the bonds of the curse weakening. Remember, my dear, she said, her voice fading into the light. You are not alone. Our legacy is one of resilience. Carry it with you, and you shall prevail. As her light enveloped me, I felt the weight of my family's history lift. I had faced the darkness, and though the entity still lurked, it was no longer a master over my fate. I had chosen freedom, and in that choice, I could feel the echoes of my ancestors cheering me on.